So you want banking privacy. It's okay, I get it. You don't want Big Brother snooping on your financial accounts. Not because you're doing anything illegal and not because you're failing to report your taxes. You just want to unlock a level of privacy that frankly should be granted to everyone on the planet. But as you and I know, privacy isn't available to everyone on the planet. Far from it. And in most cases, privacy, or what we like to call secrecy, it no longer exists, at least not in the traditional sense, unless you know where to look. But here's the thing, everyone out here talking about privacy, non-CRS countries, and bank secrecy, they're telling you to look in the wrong places. So in this video, I'm going to clear things up, and I'm going to give you 5 countries that you should consider where you can even open accounts as a foreign non-resident, including 1 secrecy jurisdiction, a developed country that 99% of you have never thought about for banking, but maybe you should. If this is your first time on the channel, my name is Chris. I'm the head of banking relationships at global banks. We help investors, entrepreneurs, and businesses solve problems with cross-border banking and financial services, including finding jurisdictions that meet their specific objectives, and in certain instances, that may include enhanced privacy. Now, I want to start off with a very simple but important disclaimer. Depending on your citizenship and residency, you may be required to report your foreign financial accounts to your home country. If that's the case, do it. No ideology or offshore investment scheme is worth jeopardizing your freedom or putting you at risk of severe financial penalties. And as you'll see, there's a good chance that your government is going to find out about those accounts anyway. So protect yourself and just submit whatever Big Brother paperwork is required of you. Okay, now privacy. This is just one of the reasons that people want to bank offshore or in international banking hubs, and it's a good reason. But the privacy available to you, it might not be what you expect. You've probably watched other videos about banking in non-CRS countries and where to find privacy on some of these other YouTube channels. I've seen them too. But there's a massive problem with these other videos. They think that just because a country hasn't signed on to the Common Reporting Standards, or CRS, that the country won't share account holder information, which is both completely wrong and very dangerous for anyone following that kind of advice. So in addition to giving you the countries to consider with increased privacy, including, like I said, 1 actual secrecy jurisdiction, I also want to give you real information. 3 major facts about information sharing that everyone else skips over completely. That way, you can make an informed decision about where you want to put your money. The first fact is that just because a country hasn't committed to the Automatic Exchange of Information, AEOI, it doesn't mean that that country hasn't committed to the Exchange of Information on Request, EOIR. Now, fact number 2 is that AEOI, CRS, EOIR, these are the most commonly talked about information sharing conventions. But countries that have not committed to these conventions, they may still have committed to lesser known information sharing programs, like the Mutual Administrative Assistance Convention, MAAC, which is also from the OECD. Now, MAAC is exactly what you think it is. Countries agreeing to assist other countries for mutual benefit, meaning tax collection. So while you can get enhanced privacy in different countries, if a country requests a specific request for information, like those submitted through EOIR or MAAC, the requested account details will be shared. Now, the third and final fact that I want to share is that outside of the OECD's conventions on information sharing, there are other country-to-country information sharing agreements as well. And these direct agreements ensure that assistance and cooperation between countries, often for tax-related purposes, will be carried out. And no surprise here, these agreements, they typically exist between countries that are economically, socially, and militarily aligned. So what's the takeaway? Well, anytime you hear someone talking about non-CRS countries, whether it's a video like this or a blog that you found through Google or even ChatGPT, if they're not also telling you about EOIR, MAAC, and direct country-to-country information exchanging agreements, and more specifically between your country where you want to bank and your home country, then at best, they're giving you incomplete information about information sharing conventions that the country has committed to. And at worst, they're giving you a false sense of security, telling you to open in countries that haven't signed CRS, even though the country may already have other, less talked about information sharing agreements in place. So just to recap, being a non-CRS country, it doesn't mean what most people think it means. And countries that have not committed to CRS, they still share information. And even if a country doesn't follow OECD conventions, they can still have direct information sharing agreements with your home country or country of residence in place. Okay, those were the facts. Now let's talk about 5 countries where you can access enhanced privacy, or at least some level of privacy for your financial accounts. And this first country is one that we suggest most foreign non-residents consider for banking. But first, if you find this kind of raw detail on topics like information sharing useful or interesting, can you do me a favor and give this video a like? That way we know to cover more topics like this for you in the future. Okay, now the first country that we're going to cover is the United States. Now, the US is non-CRS. You might even say it's anti-CRS, but that doesn't mean it's anti-information sharing. As you can see, while the US has not committed to the automatic exchange of information, it is compliant with the exchange of information on request, and it has signed the MAAC. But unlike all of the other countries on this list, the US has not committed to joining the OECD's Common Reporting Standards and automatic exchange of information. And like I said, we actively suggest that our clients do consider banking in the US, not for privacy, but because of the functionality that US banking offers. This includes personal, business, premier, and even private banking, as well as accounts for individuals, foreign-owned US LLCs, and foreign and offshore companies. And as an extra bonus, US accounts can be opened 100% remotely by all of these profiles, including with real brick-and-mortar FDIC-insured banks. Now, the amount that you'll be asked to deposit to access US banks will depend on your profile and the type of account that you want to open. But generally speaking, accounts here, they can be opened with a minimum of $25,000 up to $250,000. And this applies to both personal and business accounts. If you'd like to explore those options in detail, I'll have the team link our recent US banking video for foreigners up here. Now, the next country that we're going to talk about is the Dominican Republic. Now, the Dominican Republic gets thrown around quite a bit in the international world. It is not committed to a date for implementing AEOI, but it is already compliant with the exchange of information on request, and it has also signed the MAAC. So they may not automatically send your information to another country, but they're going to send it if they're asked. Now, that doesn't mean the Dominican Republic can't be interesting. It has straightforward, fast, and affordable citizenship and residency options for foreigners, and it is possible to open bank accounts here. Though just because you can open accounts here, it doesn't mean you should. In total, there are about 17 banks in the Dominican Republic. And out of those 17, only a few banks, maybe 3 or 4, should ever be considered by foreign non-residents, depending on their profile. But even then, you probably should not maintain a high deposit. Actually, if the Dominican Republic or any of the countries that we're discussing here are interesting to you, just comment the country name below, and then we'll prioritize making a video on them based on the comments that we receive. Okay, so let's take a look at another popular option that gets thrown around a lot, and that's Paraguay. Like the Dominican Republic, Paraguay has committed to joining AEOI, but it has not yet set a date. As for the exchange of information on request, it committed to this back in 2016 when they joined the Global Forum on Transparency. Now, things don't get implemented right away, and the next progress update is expected in 2026. But here's the thing. Paraguay already implemented information sharing through the MAAC in 2022 when Law 6656 was passed domestically, and this is already in force, even though Paraguay has not yet signed the convention. And the same thing is true for the next country I'm going to cover, which is also commonly shared as a place that, according to most sources, doesn't have information sharing, which isn't true. Okay, so what does this mean for Paraguay? Well, it means that your financial information, it won't be automatically shared, but if it's ever requested by another country, it's going to be handed over right away. And this is the same in the United States, the Dominican Republic, and the next country that I'm about to share. In fact, it's only the final country that I'm going to share with you where you can access anything that resembles privacy. But before getting to that, let me quickly wrap up Paraguay. Should you bank here? I mean, Paraguay is a popular jurisdiction for residency. We see a lot of younger Europeans getting residency here, which makes a lot of sense. It's fast, affordable, it gives you tax residency in a territorial tax jurisdiction, all good benefits to have, but there tend to be trade-offs for speed and affordability. Paraguay doesn't exactly carry the same kind of clout that other residency jurisdictions offer. And having residency in Paraguay can raise eyebrows when it comes to applying for accounts abroad. As for banking, it's not a place that we recommend unless you have specific business or personal requirements in the country. And even then, you would probably be better served by one of the other regional options instead. Okay, now before revealing the secrecy jurisdiction, let's quickly jump over to Europe. Serbia. Serbia can be interesting for a few different people, but if you're a Westerner, this is not where you should be banking. That said, if you're from Eastern Europe, CIS countries, Russia, a few of the more recent EU countries, or even different conflict zones, then Serbia can be very interesting in terms of banking. Like the Dominican Republic and Paraguay, Serbia has committed to AEOI, but it has not committed to an actual date. That said, they do comply with the exchange of information on request, and MAAC is in force, even though it has yet to be signed. Now, foreign non-residents, they can bank here, and while account opening can be a bit difficult to navigate, it is still possible. In fact, Serbian banks experienced quite the surge in interest following the Russian invasion of Ukraine, with many Russian civilians looking to bank outside of Russia. But a lot of that hype has died down, and most of the serious Russian money made its way to more established banking jurisdictions like the UAE. That said, if you're a non-resident looking to bank in Serbia, you almost always need to show up in person, though you can open accounts pretty easily once you're on the ground. But like I said, if you're a Westerner, Serbia is probably not a good fit. And if you can open bank accounts in better jurisdictions, you probably should. Okay, now I told you I was going to share one of the last secrecy jurisdictions available, the kind of place that doesn't share information with the rest of the world. But before I reveal this country, since you've made it this far in the video, please do us a favor and give this video a like. That tells us that you appreciate topics like this, and we should keep sharing this kind of level of detail with you in the future. Okay, now the reason that this country is a secrecy jurisdiction is simple. It's part of a very unique club, and other club members include Cuba, Northern Cyprus, North Korea, Western Sahara, and a few lesser known jurisdictions. And while that might not sound like the kind of club you want to join, when it comes to information sharing, it could be interesting. What we're talking about is the Club of Unrecognized Countries. More specifically, the countries that are not recognized by the OECD. And while all of those other countries that I just mentioned are underdeveloped, war-torn, sanctioned, and suffering economically and socially, this country that I'm about to share is extremely developed, has an established banking sector, and is home to major international banks from all around the world. And the name of this country is Taiwan. So why haven't you heard about Taiwan banking anywhere else? Well, it's probably because it's not the kind of place that's easy to navigate, at least from a banking perspective. And there isn't a lot of information out there about Taiwanese banking. Now, accounts here, they almost always need to be opened in person. Most bankers are not familiar with onboarding foreign clients, and ties to the island are almost always required. And that brings us to an important point. Most of the banking activities carried out by foreigners in Taiwan are related to Taiwanese financial obligations, like trade between Taiwan and other countries or the domestic banking needs of foreign companies. And when it comes to opening accounts to meet these Taiwanese banking requirements, it is almost always done in person. So the point is, Taiwan is super difficult to access. And on top of that, there's the looming threats from China, which I discussed in our other video, Where to Bank in Asia. I'll have the team throw that one up here for you. But when it comes to privacy and information sharing, Taiwan receives a hall pass because China has isolated it from the rest of the world. And in doing so, they've accidentally created one of the last privacy jurisdictions anywhere on the planet. But it is extremely difficult to bank here. Fortunately, there are easier places to bank around the world that do offer enhanced privacy and a wide range of services that you can access remotely. And to help you navigate these other options, I just shared 5 of the top offshore banking jurisdictions worth considering in a recent video, along with deposit amounts, who should and shouldn't bank in each, and how you can start opening accounts remotely. If that sounds interesting to you, you can click up here and get access to that video right now. Or you can grab our free guide, Where to Bank Offshore, from the pinned comment below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.